Hi guys, it's Becky, and in my last video I said that I was going to use some of the beads that came in the latest curated collection from Beads to Live By to bezel this snowflake cabochon that I got from the Bead Box Bargains companion bundle for the December bargain bead box. So this came in that companion bundle, and that's what I am going to be bezeling. The seed beads and 2-hole beads that I'm going to be using came in the Beads to Live By subscription. The seed beads came in the seed bead collection, and it was these frosty matte with AB finish 11-0 seed beads, and these periwinkle color with an AB finish matte colored seed beads. I'm also going to be using some of the 2-hole beads that came in the 2-hole bead subscription, and these are the 2-hole, they've got 2 different holes right there, the 2-hole daggers, and I'm going to be using that. I'm also using some 3mm fire polish beads that came in the add-on bundle for those curated collections. This is the check glass fire polish add-on bundle, and it's just some 3mm fire polish beads that came in that. It's the same color of blue as we've got here, with part of it with a silver on the outside of it. So those are the ones that came from Beads to Live By. In the companion bundle, we also had these 4mm bicones with the iris finish, or this peacock blue. And there were these 4x5mm rondelles with the matte finish with an AB coating. You can see the AB there. So it goes really well with these seed beads that we had. Like this whole thing, both the add-on bundles, the companion bundle from Bead Box Bargains, plus the curated collection from Beads to Live By, they just kind of all go together. So I am going to be using those, and this is the bezel that we're using, that we're going to be doing. So we're going to definitely be using the fire polish beads, the 11-0 seed beads, and the additional beads from the Bead Box Bargains bundle. And it makes this really, really pretty. This would be great as a focal for a necklace. Once it's bezeled, that's the back of it right there. But I'm going to be using them as earrings just because I want big snowflakey earrings right next to my face. So this is my example. This is what we're going to end up with at the end of this. And let me just show you what thread I'm using. I'm going to be using the 6-pound Fireline, and I'm going with the smoke color because it's going to be a good contrast, and you guys will be able to see it easier on this video. If I was just making it without, I would use like a crystal color or a white color Fireline. But I'm definitely using the Fireline because we're going to be using some bicones, and they can sometimes be a little sharp. And also because there's going to be putting a lot of tension on this thread. So I want something that can take it, but not so thick, like with the 8-pound Fireline, where it might not go through with multiple passes. I'm not using any really small beads like 15-0s, so this is going to be just fine. I'm going to just cut off about a wingspan's worth of this thread. And my beading needle, I prefer using wide-eye beading needles because it's a lot easier for me to take the needle off and undo my work and do all of that with the wide-eye needle, because you can just open it up like that. It's just something that I prefer working with. You can use a regular English style beading needle if that's what you're more comfortable with. So to get started, we're going to be working the back first, and we're going to start with these fire polish beads and the dagger beads. So we're going to start with that. We're going to make a little circle with these, and the circle for that is going to be a fire polish, or sorry, a dagger and 3 fire polish. And we're going to alternate that 6 times. 2, 3. So a dagger and 3 fire polish beads, a dagger and 3 fire polish beads, and we're going through if the dagger is being held with the point away from you, the hole that's closest to you, the one at the, what I think of as the bottom of the bead right here, at the very bottom, that's the one we're going into. We're not going to get to the second hole until much later in this design. So 3 fire polish and 1. I'll put bead counts in the description below for how many we're going to need for this. I'll also put my unboxing videos for both the bundle and, both the collection and the bundles that I'm drawing beads from in the description below as well, so that you can take a look at those. And if you want to buy some of the beads, I flashed up the product numbers when I was unboxing that, so they may still be available on Bead Box Bargains. And I'll put a link to Beads to Live By, because very often you can go ahead and buy some of these collections after the fact, or just a single purchase of the of these. So let's get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we did this 6 times, like so. And now I'm going to push these down almost to the end, but not quite to the end. I'm going to want to leave, I'm pulling the string with my other hand. I'm going to want to leave enough of this tail that I can just tie a little knot right here. You can wait and tie a knot later, but I'm going to go ahead and tie it now because I want to have a circle to start with. I'm just tying an overhand knot there, and then I'm going to wrap this around twice, going the other way. That gives me a surgeon's knot. There we go. All right. I'm going to go back through. Now that that's tied, I'm going to go through the bottom hole, if it's pointing away from you, the hole that's closest to you on the dagger. If I can find the hole, there we go. Now, I'm not reinforcing this right now. We're going to do plenty of reinforcing later. But right now, I'm going to be working on the back. And so I'm going to be picking up some seed beads and going from this dagger to the other one. And I'm going to go, if I'm going from this direction, we're going to go through this hole here, and then we're going to pick up more seed beads and go through that dagger, and then more seed beads and go through that dagger. And I want to pick up 7 seed beads, and you can do this all one color, but I find it's easier for me if I do 3 of one color and then 1 of another color and then 3 of that first color, so that when I go back for my, second pass, it's going to, and go just through that bead, it's going to tell me which bead I'm going to go through. It just makes it easier for me. and it might make it easier for you too. Since it's the back of this, it doesn't really matter what colors you use. So you can all use all one color. If you do, you're going to probably be doing some counting. So I'm going to pick up 3 of these. If you're doing all one color, it'll just be 7 of them. 3 of these. These are my blue ones. 1 white one. And then 3 blue. So if this is A and this is B, it's 3A, 1B, 3A. And since I'm coming out of this side of my dagger, I'm just going to go through that next dagger bead. I'm going to skip all of these fire polish beads. I'm going to pull my thread. Get my tail out of the way. And it kind of makes a little bit of a pop-up. Just use my finger and push it down into the middle there. It doesn't matter, you don't have to do that now. When we go through it again, it will definitely do that again later. So let me get a little bit closer so you can see this better. What I'm doing, I'm going to pick up my 3 blue ones, or A bead, color A. You may not be using blue. 1 white, and then 3 blue. And I'm going to skip all 3 of these fire polish beads. So I'm coming out of this one here. I'm going to go right into my next dagger bead. And so just through the dagger. That's a lot of thread, I know, but we're going to be using almost all of it. And it's pointing out like that. I'm just going to use my finger and pull it in a little bit. I don't need to, but it's going to make it a little bit easier when we get to the next part. And I'm going to repeat this all the way around until I have 6 little bumps just like this. And I'll meet you right back here when I'm done with it. Okay, so here I am. I have gone ahead and made all my little bumps of seed beads all the way around, and I'm coming out of that first dagger bead that I originally came out of to start adding these. And I'm going to sew into this line and through the first 4 beads on that strand. Now, since I'm using a separate color, it just means that I'm coming out of this white bead. If you're using all the same color, it's going to be just the first 4, so you're coming out of that 4th bead on your seed beads. There we go. And now I'm going to pick up 2 white beads. 1, 2. And I'm going to sew into the next white bead, or the 4th bead on that strand we just added of these seed beads. Just try to keep it from catching on the daggers. It will catch. It will absolutely catch on the daggers because that's what threads do. And I'm putting it down on the mat and kind of pulling this tight to help these pop into place where I want them to be. And this is going to be really flat because this is the back, and the back of our cabochon is super flat. Like that. So 2 more of these white seed beads, or color B. Or if you're doing all one color, just 2 seed beads. I'm going to go through the next white bead, or the next 4th bead. Right? And I'm going to do this all the way around until I have added 2 beads between each of these bumps. Okay, so after I have added 2 beads between each bump, I went ahead and sewed all the way back through just the white beads in order to reinforce this. And now I have a nice solid back. These are still floppy, that's fine. They're going to be floppy until we get it all reinforced. And that will fit my cabochon. My cabochon doesn't, you know, sink into it, but we're going to be building up the fronts of this in order for it to hold that cabochon in place in just a minute. Now, to get up to the point where we're going to be doing that, I'm coming out of one of these 4th beads, the white beads, and I'm going to sew through the next 3 of my blue or my original seed beads, my color A, so that I can bring my needle up to where our daggers are. And of course, I'm getting caught on the daggers. Told you we were going to get caught on it. Looks like we've got caught on 2 of them. You're going to need to wrangle your string when you're doing this. All right, now I'm going to go through my dagger again, my next dagger. And for the front, instead of 7 seed beads, I am going to add 5. And just for fun and to help make it easier for me to see what I'm doing with them, I'm going to pick up 1 blue bead and 3 white beads. You can use all the same color. You can use a bunch of different colors. You could do 2 blue, 1 white, 2 blue. But I'm doing my 5 that I'm picking up. 1 blue, 3 white, 1 blue. I'm coming out of this this dagger. I'm going to go ahead and keep skipping these fire polish beads. Mostly they're here for decoration and to make a circle. And I'm going to sew into my next dagger. And now I've got a little bit of a bump, not as much of a pronounced bump, but it's going to be right here on this side. And we're going to build up on this side. I mean, you can switch this over to the other side if you want. At this point, it doesn't really matter what the front and the back is, so I'm just designating this as the front. This could be the front if I wanted it to be, but that would mean that I'd want to move these over here to the other side if I was to designate that as the front. And it might just be which direction you're more comfortable beading in. So I've got that going over here. I'm going to show you one more time what I'm doing. Picking up 1 bead, 3 white beads, 1 blue bead, and sewing into the next dagger. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I have 6 of these little guys all the way between each dagger. And I will meet you back here after I do that. Let me just get this. Make sure you guys see me doing that thing. Where you go, buddy? Ugh. Sometimes I have trouble finding the hole. That's what he said. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Mom. There we go. And I didn't catch on anything that time. So I'm going to keep adding these with the 3 bumps all the way around. Okay, so here I am. I have added 5 seed beads between each of the dagger points. And each of these are made up of 1 blue, 3 white, and 1 blue. And they kind of sit raised above the outside of that. And so they are just going to hug the outside of this cabochon. And if I need to, I can kind of wiggle it around, push it down, and let those come up along the sides. This isn't going to hold it in place yet. But the next steps that we take are going to help get this held into place where it needs to go. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and hold it with my fingers. I'm holding the back with my full fingers, and I'm holding the cab in place. And you can rotate the cabochon if you want to. I'm just having my the white raised part line up with my daggers. I think it looks great like that. So I'm coming out of one of my daggers right here. What I want to do is move my needle until it is coming out of this center bead. If it's 5 all one color, it's going to be the center one or the third bead. It is the second white bead for mine because it is 5 made out of 2 blue and 3 white. But it's going to be the center bead in this group of 5 that we're coming out of. And I'm just going to take care of these extra threads getting in the way. And I probably should cut that off so that it's not getting in the way. But that's okay because it's all part of making. So I'm coming out of this center bead between all of these 5 ones. I'm going to pick up 5 more white seed beads. I can pick up any colors that I want, but I'm going to pick up 5 more white ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And I'm going to sew through this center bead on this little bump of beads, this group over here. Just the center one, not all of these others. Just trying to grab the end of my needle here. And we're going to tighten this up a little bit later, but that's why I'm still holding it with my fingers so that this cabochon isn't really going anywhere. But it's going to end up pulling the side towards the middle of this this cabochon side, and that's going to help anchor it into place. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to pick up 5 of my white seed beads or my bee color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sewing through the middle bead in this group of 5 over here on the side. Like I said, I'm using this darker thread because you can see it better on camera. I would use a lighter thread with these light seed beads if you're going to do it on your own so that it hides a little bit better. But I'm going to do this all the way around. I'm not going to let go of that cabochon until I know that it is secure. Okay, so I have added those 5 white beads and sewn into the center bead for each of my 5 groups of 5 all the way around. The cabochon is not completely secure yet. It could still pop out. So I'm going to go around and reinforce this. And when I reinforce it, I'm also going to be adding one of these fire polish beads in each corner where I went through this center bead. I'm going to be adding those, and this will also help secure it in place. So what I'm doing is this is where I added my last group of 5, sewn through that center bead that I was first coming out of. And I am going to sew into or through the next 4 beads in this group of 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that I am 1 seed bead short of where I went through that center bead. I'm going to skip that bead, come right out of here, skip that bead right there. I'm going to pick up my 3mm fire polish bead. I'm going to skip this last bead from this group of 5. I'm going to skip over this center bead, and I'm going to skip over the first bead from this next group of 5, and I'm just going to sew through the next 3 seed beads, the center 3 seed beads in this group of 5. Let me tighten this up a little bit. You always, when you're tightening your string, you want to pull the string, not your needle, because it's a great way to break your needle. So see how that makes a little triangle right there between these 3 beads, and then the bottom of it is right there with that, and it sits nicely, and it brings the whole bezel a little bit further over the top of this cab, and that's what's going to really help secure it. So I'm coming out of this, again, it's the 4th bead in this group of 4 because I skipped the first one, sewed through the next 3, and I'm going to skip this one as well. I'm going to pick up my fire polish bead, skip this bead, the bead that we went through, and the next one, and I'm just going to sew through these 3 middle beads in that group of 5. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to try not to get caught on things, and I'm going to pull that tight. I'm going to continue like this all the way around my cabochon. All right, and so I have added all of my fire polish beads in between these all the way around. And you can see where my thread went. And this cabochon is now secure in here. To reinforce this, I would sew all the way back through here if you're not going to continue on and do the additional embellishments, if you just want it to stay right there like that inside of here. But I want to reinforce the edges because these are a little bit on the wobbly side. So I'm going to continue around, and I'm going to move my thread so that it is coming out of, let's see, this one. So I'm just going to move my thread along, coming out of there. I'm going to go through my fire polish, these 3. Oh, this isn't the reinforcing, this is just me moving my thread so that I'm coming out of the dagger over there. So I'm going to go up through this one, the next one, and here, up along the side, heading towards that or heading towards the dagger, so that I'm coming up and out and through this first hole in the dagger that I originally was coming out of. I've gone through a couple times. So I'm just going to go through this seed bead so that I don't have to do that in one step. I can do it in 2 steps. Get to this fire polish. No, not through the fire polish, just through the dagger. Just through the dagger. And now to step up to the second hole, and you can adjust your cabochon, by the way. You can move it around if it moves on you. You can rotate it. But I'm going to just give this a little tug, keep that tight. And now I am going to go up to the second hole. You guys can see the second hole right there. I'm going to do that by just going in the opposite direction. So I'm coming out of this bottom one, and I'm going to go hop right up there. And coming along the side of these 2-hole beads is a great way to hide your thread when you're jumping up to the next level. So there, I've got the cab bezeled, and now we're embellishing it. And it also will serve to reinforce these guys so they're not as wobbly when we do that. And this is the part where these will come into play, and also these. So what I did with this one is I grabbed one of my blue seed beads, one of these 4x5 rondelles, one bicone, another 4x5 rondelle, and another seed bead. And I just went right into the second hole of the next dagger. Bloop. Like that. So I'm going to continue that all the way between each of these daggers, putting one seed bead, one rondelle, one bicone, one rondelle, and one seed bead in between each of my daggers going through that second hole. And we're going to go around this a few times, so don't worry about reinforcing. We'll get to that in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and add all these beads between my daggers, and I'll meet you right back here after I'm done with that. All right, so here we are. This is my last little section that I'm adding all the way around here. I'm going to sew through the second hole in my dagger. I'm going to sew through my seed bead and my rondelle, but I am going to skip my bicone. And this is going to be one of my reinforcement passes. And while I'm doing my reinforcement, I'm going to be adding a single 11-0. And it's going to look a little funny because like there's going to be some space between these. It's just going to be hanging out there on its own. That's fine. But I'm going to be adding that between each of the rondelles. I'm going to move the thread so that it rests down below in the bottom, and that kind of helps pop out that bicone a little bit, makes it stand out a little bit, but it also reinforces and helps tighten this up so that this is not going to be super wobbly. So I'm coming out of my, looks like out of my dagger. I'm going to go into this seed bead and that rondelle. This part's going to be a little bit fiddly, but that's okay, because I'll get to it. Seed bead and rondelle, and I'm going to pick up one 11-0 and skip that bicone. So right into that next rondelle, 11-0, dagger, 11-0, and rondelle. And like you might be able to do all of those in one pass if you line your needle up right. There we go. That's how you do it. All in one pass. Make sure you pop that down underneath that bicone before you give the thread a little tug. Tell it pop that bicone up and let that 11-0 sit there right in front of it. And like I said, it's going to look a little bit funny, but we're going to do another pass and we're going to fix that up, and it's not going to look nearly as funny when we get all the way done with this. So I'm going to go ahead just one more time, for repetition's sake. I'm going to go all the way through this next rondelle. I think I skipped adding an 11-0 there. That's fine. I'm just going to ignore the fact that I totally I skipped adding one there too. It's okay. I did it right on this one. How did I miss those? I feel like missing one there, and I'm missing one there. And you know what? I'm going to just undo this, and I'm going to get back to this point Actually, I'm going to get back to a point a little bit further from this after I fix that mistake. And this is why I like having the wide eye needle, because I can undo my bead weaving a little bit when I make mistakes like this. I can just pull my needle off, take my thread out, and do my work. Fix that error, and it looks like it's just these two that I'm missing that on. So this next one, I'm not going to take all of this out. I'm just getting back to where I made my first mistake. And I just need to pick up another blue 11-0 there. So let's put my thread back on my needle. You know, maybe it is a good thing that I caught my mistake and that I'm showing you how to correct it, because sometimes it can get really frustrating when you make a mistake. You've got to go through an evaluation thing of, can I live with my mistake? Is it easily correctable? And since it is fairly easy for me to correct it, I don't have to think as long and hard about whether I can live with it or not. I can just go back. I hadn't gone too far into my project. There we go. Now I have that 11-0 where I wanted it to be. So I'm going to get back to not only where I was, but a little bit farther past that, where I've added that 11-0 between each of the rondelles, and I will meet you back here once I've done that. Okay, so I'm caught back up, and then I progressed a little bit past where I caught up to, where I made that mistake, and then fixed it, and now I'm back, and I have added that 11-0 between each of the rondelles, skipping the bicone on each side. And so the next step is I'm going to go through and do another pass, but during this pass I'm going to go through that 11-0, and this is, I just added this one and then I went through both of these, and I'm going through the 11-0. I want to be coming out of that 11-0 that we just added. I'm going to pick up 2 white seed beads. I can do blue if I want to, but I'm going to do white. And then I'm going to sew through these 3 seed beads, 1, 2, 3, that were part of this original 5, the first 5 that we added to make this front bezel. So I'm going to sew through all 3 of those, and you can do them separately or together. Like that, and then I'm going to pick up 2 more of my white seed beads, and I'm going to sew through this 11-0 up here at the top, right next to the bicone. Like that. And I'm going to go through, again, the rondelle, this 11-0, the dagger, the 11-0, and the rondelle. This is my 3rd pass through these, by the way. And through the 11-0, and I'm coming out of this 11-0. I'm going to do the same thing. These are the 3 that I'm going to be sewing into, but before I do that, I'm going to pick up my 2 11-0 seed beads, sew through all 3 of these, and if you can do it in one pass, do it in one pass. If not, one or 2 at a time works, as long as you can sew through them. And 2 at a time is fine. One more. And then I'm going to pick up 2 more seed beads and sew through this seed bead here at the top. So 2 more seed beads. Boop. Keep those from falling off. So back through this. Try to keep it from catching on things. There we go. And then back through all the way around. And I'm going to continue to do this all the way around where I add these seed beads right there, this little seed bead cluster. Linking this level with this level. And when I get done with that, I will come back and I will show you how to finish this off. All right, so here we are. It is just about finished. I just need to make it something that I can add to some jewelry. Now, if I was going to have this as a pendant, I would probably just go ahead and use one of these as my bail. I would put a beading wire through that and then add some beads to my beading wire and have myself a little necklace. But instead, or you could do a come out of here and maybe do a little wire guardian on the back instead of what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to show you in just a minute. I'm going to go through here all the way through. Come on, one more time, Betty. One more time. Because I just finished going through these guys, so I want to just move over here to my next bicone. And if I can do this, there we go, coming out of there. Alright, so for this, I'm going to go ahead and sew through this bicone so that I'm coming out of it. And then I'm just going to make myself a little beaded loop. That's what I did with this. Just made a little beaded loop coming out of the bicone that I can attach an ear wire to. You could do a wire guardian instead. That would also work. Probably better than this, but that's fine. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. I did 9 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Counting with Beki. All right, now I'm going to go through that bicone one more time. And to reinforce this, I'm just going to sew once, twice, all the way back through these. So I'm going to go through it 2 more times so that we have 3 passes. I'm going to try not to get my thread caught on things. Because there's a lot of pokey out places on this. You know what? This would also probably make a really great ornament. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. But I'm going to be wearing them as ear ornaments. They're going to be on my ears. Really pretty. And I'm so glad. I love the serendipity of like multiple bead boxes kind of going together. It's the colors of this season. We've got our beautiful like blues and whites, our icy colors, our frosty wintry colors. They all go together. Alright, so after I go through this, I'm going to go back down the back and find a place to just tie like a couple 1/2-inch knots. Let's go. I mean, I could probably tie some here, but I'd rather do it a little further away from where this is going. I'm gonna just try not to go through that. Oof, come on, buddy. I don't, like, but I actually don't want to go through that. There we go. Now I'm going to go back through here. This is the lower, or the first hole. I'm just weaving back into my work so that I can go down here and find a place to tie off, because I just want to get to a point where I can cut my thread and be done. And try to do that without it catching on everything. Alright, so here's a good place for me to tie off. I'm going to go underneath this strand. It's actually several strands, but I'm going underneath them. I'm going to leave myself a little bit of a loop. I'm going to sew through that loop. Makes myself a nice little half-hitch knot. Pull it taut. I'm going to go through these beads and just make a second one. Oop, where's my loop? There it is. This is not where I wanted that to be. I'm in charge of you, thread. You need to pay attention to me. And I'm just going to sew a little bit away from there so that when I cut my thread, it won't be being cut right next to the knot. Now I have my second earring. I have my 2 snowflakes. I know they say no 2 snowflakes are exactly the same, but these are pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. And let me grab my ear wire. Stick this guy on there. And like I said, it would make a great pendant, I think. But I have 2 of them, so I decided to make them into earrings. And I hope y'all are having a wonderful time. Thanks for sticking with me while I made these. And if you like what you see, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. And I will talk to you later. Bye.